Thank you very much. This is the Committee of the Whole meeting for the Town of Rocky Mountain House for October 10th, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first order of business is the adoption of agenda. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to add or remove from the agenda today? Seeing none, I guess we need a motion to adopt the agenda for today. Councillor Chappelle?
Your worship, also make that motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And none opposed. We have no delegations this evening, and so adoption of previous minutes. We'll go over 4.1 first, to adopt the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes for June 13. Were there any additions or deletions for those minutes? Seeing none. Would somebody like to make a motion? Councillor Phillips.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes for June 13th Committee of the Whole meeting.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? If there's no other questions, all in favor of that motion? And no opposed. Thank you very much. I had a question about the meeting minutes for September 12th, 2023. I see that there was, I don't know if it's a motion or what it is, but on there, because I was away that day, we made a budget that we're putting something on the budget. Is that just moving it to budget discussions for $250,000? It says that it was passed that we're putting it on the budget. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, your worship, so the resolution says into the draft operating budget, so it's draft for council's consideration.
Okay, and so, but don't we usually have to do a motion for that?
This is a draft budget. It's not.
So that was that's what my questions were around, so.
No, because the decision isn't being made here. We're just putting it into the draft budget for council's future consideration.
So, but we had a vote on that to do that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, that clarified my questions, because usually if we make decisions and it goes up to the other one, and then we didn't talk about it last week. So I was confused how that process was supposed to work. So thank you very much. Is there any deletions or changes to the meeting minutes for September 12th then? Seeing none, I don't know, what is this? I need a motion then. Councillor Caprero?
I will make a motion to adopt the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of September 12th, 2023.
Thank you very much. If there's no further discussion over that motion, I will call that to vote. All in favor of that motion? And none opposed. And so we have no delegation business today, so we're on to old business. And we have the RFD notice of motion for the executive committee. And so, Councillor Chappelle or Mr. Kraus, did one of you want to take lead on that, to start the discussion? Okay, so well, I think everybody's had a chance to review the documents, and then I just wanted to discuss if we like the recommendations that he's given. So I believe that they are to go with, review the terms of reference for governance and priorities committee, and then not worry about the agenda committee. Sorry. Does that sound like where we're going to start our discussion tonight? Councillor Chappelle?
So I just want to back up to my original motion. Okay, my original motion was to look at an executive committee. Council had looked at contacting Mr. Cuff and getting a opinion, and his opinion was that my thought process was basically incorrect. Can't do that. And so, but what he has suggested is that we look at the setting up a different committee relative to this. And as he put it, it's we set the tracks of the train in place, but we don't drive the train per se. So I think in that case, his recommendation, he has recommendations for two committees. The second one being a committee to look at agendas and stuff, which I don't agree with. The staff recommend that we do look at his first item, and I would be prepared to do that. I think that's where we should go going forward.
Thank you very much. Councillor Phillips?
Yes, so looking at, the Governance and Priorities Committee terms of reference, and then looking at our committee of the whole, I don't see a ton of difference between, the Governance and Priorities Committee or a committee of the whole meeting. I don't see a lot of difference between the two, other than it's recommended that we have 2 meetings a month with this Governance and Priorities Committee, as opposed to 1 committee of the whole meeting, which I think may be a little excessive. I don't think we'll have enough agenda items for that. I did see some, there are some differences, but I'm just questioning, should we, shouldn't we, yes, no? Kind of where I'm at.
Okay, so Councillor Hutchinson?
I feel different than Councillor Phillips on that one. I find that his terms of reference clarifies what the meeting would be about. I feel our committee of the whole meetings are we don't have a lot of structure in them. I think that with the Governance and Priority Committee, it would allow us to have time for things like our reports and minutes from the other committees we
External.
sit on, for awareness and sharing, and to have conversation, if there is conversation on them. I think the clarity on new policy issues the discussion would be better had at this Governance Priority Committee meeting as opposed to just a regular council meeting. I agree twice a month may be not something we consider, just probably once a month. I would also suggest, if we went this route, that we would look at a time change from 6 in the evening to perhaps a morning, just because it's heavier stuff, and sometimes by 6 o'clock, we are all not at our best. As for the agenda committee, I feel that would be beneficial. It would address things like, I'm gonna say, admin inquiries, that often, we bring them at the end of our regular council meetings, and sometimes I feel that it puts admin on the spot. If those were addressed at the agenda committee meeting, to see whether or not it is something that we should be discussing at an actual council meeting, or if it's something that can be answered clearly at that time. And I think that an agenda committee could also add something that was brought up at our course that we took at Alberta Municipality Conference on things like discussing time frame for agenda items, so that it keeps our meetings flowing, as opposed to, sometimes we get off on conversation that may not be relevant. So I am in favor of both, and I think that they would give us some clarity and some direction that sometimes it's always good.
So I'm gonna break that down just for the ease of the conversation. So let's just separate it out for a couple of things. So let's not worry about the date and time of the meeting just yet. Let's talk about the agenda committee separately than the citizen engagement. So if you don't mind, because I think we've kind of discussed all previously about an agenda committee, and I feel that it puts extra time constraint that's not necessary. I feel that the agenda, now that we have a system and everybody understands how the agenda is put together, and administration, there's once in a while we have things that are added, but I feel that the agenda that we are given seems to flow quite easily. The only thing, and that's just my opinion, I don't think we need a second meeting to go over an agenda that you know, there's nothing wrong with it now. Like, we discussed this earlier this year. So does anybody have a differing opinion? Is anybody in favor of having agenda committee, or is anybody opposed to having agenda committee? That's what I want to hear about, just about the agenda committee, to start with. Councillor Chappelle.
I hear what Councillor Hutchinson is saying, but I guess where I'm at is with administrative inquiries that she brought up specifically, or I think that there is a place for that. If citizens on the street are talking, I think that just if putting administration on the block to me, or asking a question, there's always the opportunity to say, hey, I don't know the answer, I'll get back to you. And so I think it's not so much of throwing them into the fire, but just putting it out there. Because if people come to us and they watch the meeting, I think it's important that they know that we're representing them and asking the questions that they have, that they can see what the answer is. I think it's more transparency, and I think if that's what we're trying to get, that's where we need to go, is to make sure that we're asked enough. So, but short of that, I'm not in favor of that agenda committee at this point. I think that we've talked about it before, and I'm just not so sure that it's going to change anything from where we are today. I'd be prepared not to have that committee.
Okay.
And when it comes to the governance and priorities,
We'll talk about, I just want to talk about separately so we can solve one thing and then move to the next. So is anybody in favor of having the agenda committee? Because we've heard one yes and one no. Is anybody else in favor of having the agenda committee that hasn't spoken yet? Okay. Yes, but you've already spoken. So I'll go to Councillor Boniface, and we'll go to anybody who else has something to say against the agenda committee.
I agree with Councillor Shipple on both points, and I am not in favor of agenda committee. I think it's working fine right now between admin and yourself, and I'd like to see it stay that way.
Okay. And so now, is there anybody else beside Councillor Hutchinson that would like to speak for the agenda committee or have anything else to say? Okay, so now Councillor Hutchinson.
I just feel that the process that's happening right now isn't fair. We're supposed to be having discussions, and I don't know, to present it to us that who's in favor and who's not in favor. I think that
So-
everybody should have the opportunity to
Well, that-
speak if they choose to.
That
But-
meeting that you just said we all attended, that actually is what they talked about in the meeting. They said it makes it better flowing, that everybody has opportunity, and it makes it so that you're not against a person, you're against the idea of it. And so I'm the chairman, and that's the direction that I want to move in. So do you have something to say about what we're discussing rather than how I'm chairing the meeting?
No, I'm just feeling that it's inappropriate the way the conversation is going.
Okay, thank you very much. So if we could talk about the agenda, do you want to take a vote on having the agenda committee to move forward? Does everybody feel about that? Or do we feel that we just are going to move forward? Councillor Phillips.
I think if we had one person speaking in favor and no one else spoke in favor, I think that probably is the answer there.
Okay.
But that's
So-
just my 2 cents.
Okay, so I just want to make sure everybody had their chance to speak. So I'll just move forward then, if nobody is opposed to moving forward. Then we will go on to talking about the other part of the discussion, which is the committee of the whole. And I think whether we call it the governance and priorities committee, or if we call it the committee of the whole, if we can incorporate like both, best of both worlds into our committee of the whole, like some of the, like, even if you read Mr. Krause's, like, or the
Mr. Cuff.
no, so on our page 4 of 6, the council sought advice from Mr. Cuff. Oh yeah, terms of reference to committee of the whole does not encompass, these are, I really like the idea that we can talk about reports and minutes from external boards and committees are reviewed and discussed. That really, I think that would be a really good use of our time. And it would also free up time from our regular council meetings. Does anybody else have anything else to say, Mr. Councillor Schipel, about those other recommendations?
I'm just going to agree with
Councillor Phillips.
Councillor Phillips. I think that the only thing, his comments are clear. I mean, in terms of do we need them twice a month or once a month? I think once a month is ample. I like the format, and one of the things is getting all the minutes out there and get them discussed. Like, I like the format of it compared to where we're at today. I think it moves us forward. So sometimes we just accept minutes as accepting them rather than discussing them. So I think Councillor Phillips nailed it.
Okay. So, I just have a question for Mr. Kraus. Does it matter if we, what we call our Tuesday once a month meeting? Okay. That's awesome, because, like, to me, it doesn't matter if we call it the Governance and Priorities Committee or the COW. We can keep functioning like we already are, but this streamlines sort of like our agenda and what we're doing in the COW meeting. Does that sound reasonable? Does anybody have any? Councillor Hutchinson?
From how I read the terms of reference for the committee of the whole, the Governance and Priority Committee is much more detailed, and it adds to it whether we want to keep the name committee of the whole or not. But I would like to see, like, all of the terms of reference suggested by Mr. Cuff to be put into a procedure, into the amending bylaw for the procedure bylaw to incorporate the terms of reference.
Okay, so
To add to the committee of the whole.
I think
or-
that's a great place to start the discussion. Does anybody have anything that they really like or really dislike out of all of the terms of reference that Councillor Hutchinson is, like, we can go through them all. Councillor Phillips?
Yeah, just echoing what's already been said, the meeting minutes from our various committees, that is one thing I do like. I definitely like that we would be able to have an opportunity to bring everybody up to speed what goes on in our individual committees, because most of them is just an individual counselor sitting on it, so I do like that one for sure.
And I like on page 4 of 6 of our our decision paper there, I kind of like all the recommendations. New policy issues would go to the, whatever we call it, whereas now it's up to administration which agenda it goes to. Does it go to a regular council meeting, or does it go to, and it would kind of move those things to the committee of the whole meetings when we're just talking about straight policy. And then so number 3, that it meets at least every 2 weeks. I think if we keep our current format, I think we'll be able to fit everything in. We're not like the city of Edmonton. Do you feel, Mr. Kraus, that that would be reasonable, that we didn't do number 3, the terms of reference for every 2 weeks? Yes, okay, thank you. Does everybody else feel that just once a month is, or whatever we decide is reasonable for now? Yeah, so I don't see anybody opposed to that.
No, I agree, once a month is more than plenty. I do like the idea of bringing it into a morning as opposed to an evening. I definitely do like that.
Okay.
Having it start at 9 or
So
10 or whatever.
I actually want to talk about that. So I don't mind having the meeting start at 6, but I also think that maybe our council meetings could start earlier in the day. And so that, like, if they started at 9 rather than at 1, it moves that whole topic to the beginning of the day, because sometimes we're stuck for time. And then this allows people who are trying to have full-time jobs and be on council still participate in the committee of the whole meetings. You know, like we all have, and so that's, and I think, Councillor Boniface, did you want to say that as well?
Pretty much, like, mornings are pretty much impossible. So, I mean, this is actually the best time of day for me. If we moved all meetings this time of day, it would be just perfect for me.
Yeah.
I understand it doesn't work for anybody else. I'm being selfish and say it works for me. So if we could, even if it could be something where, I don't know if it's possible, but if we're doing it on a monthly basis, if we had one in an evening and one in the morning, then at least it would be kind of, it would work a little
Yeah.
better for me, if possible.
I'm totally fine with the time. It's been set up like that for a really long time. And we're not just looking at the people who are on the table right now, we're looking at the next council, right? So we want the next council to be able to have jobs and to have, you know, be all kinds of things. So I think it's a good compromise. So the last recommendation was, is there any other terms of references that anybody wants to like point out that are in the governance priorities and committees document before we send it to administration to put into our cow policy.
Sorry, I'm not sure if this is the right place to ask
Yeah,
this
go
question or
ahead.
not, but if we're talking about our procedural bylaw, one thing I would like to maybe look at is, we have the 4-hour time limit for our council meetings. And every time we go over, we have to typically, usually we're in camera at that point, come out of camera, extend the meeting, go back into camera.
Yeah.
Is this an opportunity to just say council meetings last however long they last? There's no set time limit on it.
Does the
so we don't have to-
MGA have anything to say about that?
No, so your worship, and because at your, next week you have your organizational meeting. And as part of the organizational meeting, it's a review of the procedural bylaw by council to see if they want any changes. So that's, I guess, why those other items aren't included in this, because this is strictly, the issue is the.
Policy.
The committee of the whole meetings or governance and priority, so.
So if, we'll put a pin in that and postpone that conversation till when, the organizational meeting? And that's next week, right? Yeah. And so I'll go to Councillor Chappelle and back to this, and then I'll go to Councillor Hutchinson. Did I get the order mixed up? I could go to Councillor Hutchinson first?
That's fine.
Well, I'd like to make a motion, and in my motion, I'd like to add that we instruct administration to do a draft, which will give us another kick at the cat. It will come back before us, so if there's anything in there that we notice needs changing, that we can change it at that point. So if you'd allow me to make the motion at this point, we can still have discussion, but if I could
Yep.
make the motion.
And could I suggest that we put it to another committee of the whole meeting that it comes back to?
Yep.
Because
So-
it's, then it would fit into the committee of the whole meeting.
Okay, so let me go with my motion, if it would, that it resolve the council instructs administration to prepare a draft amending bylaw for the procedural bylaw of 2022/15 to incorporate a governance and priorities committee with the terms of reference for the November 14, 2023 council committee of the whole meeting for council's consideration.
So, and then we're gonna keep it as a committee of the whole, even though it says governance and priorities committee?
For the motion, your worship?
Yes.
Yeah, it's still committee of the whole, because council has not changed the name,
Okay,
so.
okay, I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
his motion means what I am thinking of. And, so Counselor Hutchinson, did you have a comment or question?
Just some things to add to the terms of reference, which might not be in there. I've researched a number of other municipalities that have the same type of committee in place, and things like council reports. I feel that we tend to, we don't discuss them, but that would tie in with having our committee minutes and reports from there. So if we could put our council reports on there, and then if that would give us the opportunity to have more time to discuss and ask questions of, you know, what did the committee Councillor Phillips was on, you know, just a little bit more conversation.
And so that would be like when we do our, because we're gonna discuss the, like the committee reports, and then you would just go through everything else that you've done at the same time?
That's my thoughts, just to add that on there, so.
Okay,
Again, so we can have more dialogue and know what everybody else is doing, because a lot of times we rush through that, and, because it's always at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, we're done. And, I mean, I don't know if that would be an opportunity to maybe do the reports from the CAO, from the directors, so that we could, again, get into more conversation, more open conversation, as opposed to in a regular council meeting. And again, those things would shorten, I would hope, would shorten our regular council meetings. You know, so we're not going over that 4-hour mark.
yeah.
So those were just a couple suggestions I had to add to it.
I don't mind having council reports, but I think putting more items onto this, then we're gonna have a committee of the whole that's really unbalanced. And I'd like to just see what we can do with these things before we start. I mean, I'm fine with council reports, but to have all administration here in the evening, late, to do that conversation, it's gonna be late at night.
No, I wasn't referring to all of admin, just bringing our CAO report that we're doing on regular council days for the CAO to report on his directors at this meeting as opposed to a regular council meeting. That's what I was referring to.
Counselor Chappelle?
Your worship, Mr. Cuff in his report has indicated that we should have a CEO dialogue every 2 weeks or every council meeting versus once a month. I'd be more in favor of moving that and shortening up his report to once a report on every council meeting at the end in camera versus moving it to once a month. I think that Mr. Cuff's recommendation in terms of having it every 2 weeks, I mean, there's lots of stuff going on. Maybe 2 weeks makes far more sense than once a month. So I guess I'm not in favor of what you're suggesting there with that report. I think we should look at it every council meeting versus once a month.
Counselor Hutchinson?
Maybe we need clarity on what is involved in the CAO report. If it's, because we have CAO dialogue in closed session, but maybe the CAO report for the directors' reports should be in this new committee or committee of the whole, whatever we want to call it, but we still have our CAO dialogue at a regular council meeting.
Okay, well, so with the motion on the table, everybody's had their say now on those things. Does anybody else have something different regarding to the motion on the table to accept the governance priorities as submitted and moving forward? Seeing none, I'll call that motion to a vote. We can always address it later once we see the rough draft. So all in favor of the motion on the table? And no one opposed, and so that's carried, and thank you very much. So moving forward in the agenda, that takes care of 6.1. And we're on to 7.1, the residential waste audit. And Mr. Cuff, did you want to present? Sorry, Mr. Mr. Kraus, I got a cough on the brain.
I wish I made his way, but I mean, that's, yeah. So thank you, your worship. So as council knows, they budgeted for a waste audit for this year to see how our waste recycling and organics program is progressing, and that audit was conducted in July of this year. So basically, to summarize it, in 2019, the single-family waste composition study found about 60% of the waste stream consisted of organic material. The recent studies show we're now at 47%. So this is a reduction of 13%, which means we have made some progress, but we still have a ways to go to get that out of our waste stream. An additional 12% was identified as eligible for curbside recycling program, which is less than the 17% in 2019. So again, some progress there, but there's still room for improvement in that. And then previously only 4% of the waste stream was deemed general waste, compared to 30% in 2023. This shows a progressive trend to material that cannot be diverted, making up a larger portion of the garbage stream. So that's good news. Ultimately, the entire garbage stream should be non-divertible material, and that's really council's goal. So the report does provide 4 recommendations. 3 are just basically more marketing and education to the public to try to get those percentages closer to where we want them to be. And of course, the other one was to redo the audit in 2 to 3 years to see what progress we made.
Is that the spots check number?
The spot
Number
check,
3?
yeah. It doesn't have to be a full audit, but just a spot check. So we'll leave that to council's discussion. And of note, council does have a resolution to also discuss the share shed when this report came in. So I'll leave that for council's discussion.
Awesome. So, I think the recommendations that they came up with is kind of what we all discussed along, like, before they even did that. I remember when Marin was on council, we talked about, you know, how can we really get buy-in from the ratepayers to participate in the program? And so, I think we're kind of on the same page then. The report shows us that. Does anybody else have anything? Councillor Chappelle?
Just a comment about the report, and that was that there was no comparison communities or anything like that in the report. I'm not sure if that was in the terms of reference when they did it, or if there is other comparable communities, because if we're way behind the 8 ball compared to others who have got into the program same as us, then we have an issue. If we're ahead of the curve, then, hey, just keep chugging along and keep working at their recommendations. So I'm just wondering if that information is available.
Your worship, we would have to talk to Sonabera to see if they would disclose the waste audits from other municipalities that they've done, but it was not in the terms of reference to.
Do they have a list of other municipalities that they did the waste audit for?
We would have to
Like a-
check with them.
like a-
Yeah, I'm not aware of it, your worship,
Okay.
so.
Because, I mean, if they've already done it, maybe we could reach out to that community and say, hey, where are you at? When did you do this audit? Would that be possible to reach out to Sonavera and see if there's this report done for other communities, and maybe we could reach out to the other community to get some, like, comparables?
We can,
So-
your worship, yeah.
That sort of, that's good to know, because then if we're sort of like the trend of the general public, you know, in the world, we can decide if we want to be ahead of the curve or, you know, push harder,
Well,
where we're gonna spend our money.
Well, some of the communities may have, your worship, other ideas as to how they get people buying into the program. So when you know, their report looks directly at Rocky Mountain House, but there's other reports for other communities. Maybe there's those snippets in there that we could latch onto that could work to our favor for making it happen, so.
Yeah, that, like, if we knew the other communities, I could talk to when we do the, quarterly mayor meeting, I could, you know, like, get some data. Councillor Hutchinson?
Just on what Dale said, Sonovaris will be at the trade show next week, so that's an opportunity to speak with them. I really liked, I thought the report was great. I wish there was some way that we could have everybody in town read it. I like the recommendations. I think it's important to continue to publicize what we're doing and why, and the differences from this year to that year. And again, that's maybe another conversation we have at service level when we're looking at another position to help out our communication coordinator, because it's a big job. I had a question, and I don't know if you'd have the answer right now, on the cost of spot checks.
What did we do for our budget for this report? And did they come in on budget? That was
Yeah,
gonna be a
no,
question.
your worship, they did come just under budget. I think it was 15,000 to do the audit.
Seems expensive.
But
Sorry, that was.
we would
Mr.
have to
Vice.
price out spot checks if we use summer students or contractors, but we could.
I think that, given the work that's gone into the program that we're offering, I think it would be beneficial to us to, it may not be 3 years, I don't know what that number is right now, but to do spot checks so that we can have numbers to show people that, look, this is working. But having said that, we need to have a plan in place to continue to promote and showcase what we're doing, and maybe have numbers like you suggested on comparable municipalities, if that's available, to continue to educate the public.
I think some of the onus should be on us. like, we are making the decisions for our whole community, and we have, I mean, we got voted in by the public, so we have contacts in the public, and we should be able to reach out to our, you know, our whatever contacts in the community and start promoting it ourselves. And I think that's a good, it wouldn't cost anything if everybody on council used their social media and did little snippets. We wouldn't have to, I mean, just another idea that wouldn't cost any money. I mean, we're promoting this program, but it could also be us promoting it. And so that was just an idea that I had on that. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a formal person. I mean, there's 7 of us here that all did promotion to get elected. How hard is it to promote what things go in what bin?
Hard.
Councillor Schippel, did you have
Thank you, Your
comments?
Worship, if I could please. And Councillor Hutchinson, I totally agree with where you're at. And I'm not so sure if I like the spot versus doing the same study year after year. What gets measured gets done. And if we measure it and we advertise it and say, hey, we're moving where we are, because to me, diversion is critical. If we do nothing, nothing will happen. So I think if it's $15,000, I think that could be $15,000 well spent and could save us money in terms of what we take to the landfill. So I guess where I'm at is I would advocate that we redo the program on an annual basis for comparison purposes and try to reduce the amount of stuff that goes to our landfill. And there's definitely room for movement. And if you did that for a couple of years and you showed the people, hey, here's what we've done, maybe we can get more of a buy-in. So I think it's long-term. I think it's just the reality of where it's at. So that's my recommendation. I think I like where you're going with this, Councillor Hutchinson, but I think we just need to take it even further, so.
Councillor Phillips.
So I do agree that yes, as council, we can, you know, use our own voices to help this along, but I do firmly believe that we also need the voice of the town's communication as well. This is a big topic. It's costs a lot of money. Garbage isn't free to get rid of. The fact that we're now at a 45% diversion, that's a win. You know, that's a large win for the town of Rocky Mountain House. The blue bins versus blue bags, since we've changed over to the blue bins, even just driving down the streets during that day when the bins are picked up, there's much more uptake of the blue bins going out than there ever was on the blue bags. So I'm hoping the next time we do a spot check that the recycling portion will have a even more diversion rate. But it's one of those things that, you know, I agree in the recommendations. We need to do more social media, more participation from the public to get our diversion rate up beyond 45%. Because as Councillor Schippel has said, it costs money. Like everything that we put into a landfill costs the town money. The more we can divert, because right now the 3 streams that we have, the blue bin, the black bin, and the green bin, that is a fixed cost. So if we can divert things out that way and not have it go to the landfill, that's gonna save us money in the long term. So spending more time and effort on communication, I think, is a good step. And, you know, and potentially looking at our commercial, like a commercial organics program as well.
I really like the idea of I see Councillor Hutchins, I really like the idea of a commercial program. I think that's the next area. If you look at cities like Banff or towns, communities, like Banff, you know, we have like food waste and, you know, some companies that I think could really take advantage if we could somehow open it up. You know, they do have the ability to recycle, but looking at that, it would be great. Councillor Hutchinson.
I believe that's coming up at service level on the commercial side. We got that? No?
No.
Is that something that, even to carry on this conversation at service level, to figure out some specific programming or step forward on our making the public aware, something at service level to add, to implement the recommendations that have come from this report?
Do we have to wait till service level? Can't we start implementing some of the things now? Like, we could start discussing it now. Why do we have to wait till service level? Counselor, Mr. Kroos.
Well, it's
Okay.
up to council where they want to discuss an issue, so I'll leave it to Councillor Hutchinson to discuss why it'd be better at service level in her opinion, so.
I just thought because we have the position, a second position, assistant, whatever for communication coordinator, would be at service level discussion. So how far we can stretch our employee now to add these recommendations might be too much. That's why I thought service level may be the place for that discussion.
Well, I think if we discuss it now, we could see if there's like tiny things that we could do to start promoting the program now and moving forward. And then when we got to service level, we would have a better idea of feedback of what's needed to assist and what's not needed to assist. If we started saying like, this is what we're gonna want in the future and start making those ideas now. Counselor Phillips?
I just have a suggestion. I know that there's a few of us here at the table, including our communications coordinator that's going to the RCA conference next week. I would imagine that they probably have some very good detailed information on how to, for communities that already have a program, how to make that program more effective. So maybe it's something that we can, target ourselves at that conference next week to look for ideas, look for suggestions. Our service level after that is literally a month away. So maybe then it does go to the service level. We bring these ideas, Ms. Button will be there as well with us, so she can help us with some possible ideas. I think maybe that's a plan of attack, that we can take that information, take it to service level, see how we can make a plan come together.
Throughout the year, I've sort of been keeping a mental track of what all we're gonna talk about at service level, and I just don't want service level to be so overwhelming that we're not able to. So the more we can discuss before we go to service level to prepare ourselves, I mean, like, we have a big ton of things that we're gonna be discussing, so just wanna make sure that that's, realistic. We can't put everything on service level. We have to sort of make decisions as we go along. So, does everybody just want to postpone any further discussions? Is there a motion that makes that? Sorry, Counselor Schiffelt? I lost my sheet where it gave me
I was
all
looking
the-
for a recommendation on the motion.
That's what I was looking for
But
too.
I would make a motion, we accept the report for information, and that we wait till after the next week's convention and have further discussion on implementing a program that will roll out to the community to try to change our diversion to more recycled items.
Keep
So,
moving forward.
yeah.
That sounds great. Does anybody have any questions or
Okay.
comments on that motion? So the motion is to, if I could rephrase or repeat, the motion is to accept for information and have further discussions at service level and in the future, waiting till the report comes back from the RCA meeting next week.
Okay.
Does that sound I don't know who captured it, but is that
Well,
what he's?
I'm not sure if Mr. Kraus, I would just want to make sure that we're online with the administration on this, if that makes sense.
So for clarification, we are discussing it at service level, so that's the next discussion. That's the motion.
Yes, that would be my thinking, yes. Because service level's happening right away anyway, so
Yep.
half a dozen of one, six of another where we discuss it, as long as we discuss it somewhere.
Okay. Yep. So we've captured the motion and everybody's clear on what the, what that means. Any further comments? Counselor Hutchinson?
I
light is
just
on?
wanted to clarify, does that need to be two motions? So accept the information, the study for information, and then a second motion, or can it be all
It can-
together in one?
It can be all together in one. I don't think there's a problem with the motion. So, with that out of the way, and I don't see any further questions or comments, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of the motion? And opposed, none, that's carried. I think we're doing great. So 7.2, the RFD for the Mayor's Award Program is the next item. And so there's a couple of things in there. So do we wanna talk about the banquet agreement first? Counselor Hutchinson,
In the last section, admin was looking for some direction about the share shed. We forgot to talk
I'm
about.
sorry, we didn't talk about the share shed and I had it written down. Let's talk about the share shed. So, there's been a lot of public, interest in starting the share shed program again. Counselor Phillips.
I appreciate there's been a lot of public conversation about the share shed. I would like to somehow have some type of a costing associated with what that would cost. If we brought back the share shed, kind of in a rough idea of where that's gonna cost from a financial point of view, just so when we do have that conversation, now we have a number associated with that conversation.
So that was sort of removed because of cost implications. Did we ever have a cost attached to that to start with? It was just sort of like, that was before my time, right?
No, your worship, we didn't have a cost specific to the the shed.
Okay, so is that something that Impringham can provide us with, because they were the ones that made the recommendation to the previous council? That it was too costly to continue with the program?
No, so
Is
your
am I
worship,
got that wrong?
It wasn't Empringham that made that recommendation, but, I mean, that actually came from the Waste Authority of
Okay,
the work involved in there and how much actually ended up in the landfill versus being shared, I guess. So for a cost, we would have to cost out a building, because there isn't a building for it right now. And then we would have to discuss with Empringham, cost of operating it and look at what they would charge us for that, so.
how much would that cost to find out the cost?
It would not cost us anything to find out the cost, your worship. I mean,
Sometimes it
Um,
costs
yeah.
things to find out the
I
cost.
mean, administratively, we could do that, I mean, because really, it would just be kind of a garage package type of building, shelving, concrete pad, so forth, and then talking to Abraham for operating.
Okay. Counselor Phillips, did you have a follow-up before I go to Counselor Ald?
Just some background information on the share shed itself. So it was an entity of the Regional Waste Authority back in the day. Once COVID hit, the share shed had to shut down because of COVID. After COVID was gone, the Regional Waste Authority was no more, and now we were doing our own thing, and that's kind of where it became, or how it came about. And, you know, simply asking for costs, I think that's a prudent first step, is finding out how much it would cost us to bring that back.
Thank you very much. Counselor Ald?
I'm just gonna agree with Lynn. I think before we make any further conversations about it, we need to know those costs before we really have anything to discuss.
Okay. Counselor Boniface?
I'm just gonna say that I'm not in favor of bringing the share shed back. I realize there's a big ask in the community for it, but we had one. We voted as a council to get rid of it. In fact, it was a recorded vote. And we made that decision, and to now turn around and say we're going to do it again and we're going to spend town money to do it. We came up with a program of Kick It to the Curb. I don't see any reason why we couldn't open that to pretty much every weekend there is in the summer. It doesn't have to be twice a year, it could be every weekend. And there's lots of times now people are getting used to it. Just last weekend, I saw 3 or 4 places that had something stuck out in front of their house with a free sign on it. I've done it at my house. I'm not waiting until Kick It to the Curb day. I'm just gonna do it. And I think a lot of people are getting on. I would like to see us move completely away from a share shed and not waste any time of administration and just move on from it.
So does anybody else have a comment or question on that to move forward? I like that it's not gonna cost anything to find out what the cost would be. I also think that Kick to the Curb is a really awesome program. I was one of those people that had free stuff on my lawn this weekend because it was so nice out. As a matter of fact, I still have 3 flower pots I have to bring back. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion, if there's no further discussion, that we direct administration to search out the cost of what the share shed program would incur to the town of Rocky Mountain House.
Thank you very much.
And
Any,
do we need to say, bring that to service level, would that, and bring that to service level review?
yeah, so, that's perfect. So another thing to discuss, do you think, Mr. Kraus, we'd have data in the next 30 days to be able to discuss it at service level, or should we leave that a little bit more open? I don't know how long it would take to find information from Empringham or whatever.
Oh, Your Worship, this isn't a big ask of Empringham to give us costing, because we'll look at a couple options probably, even if it's a town employee that runs it 2 days a week or something, but we'll look at options for council,
Okay,
but we would have it ready for service level.
okay. I just wanted to make sure it was possible before we all voted on it, and then possible is always good. So, is there any other questions about Councillor Phillips' motion that's on the table right now? Okay, so I'll call that for a vote. All in favor of that motion? And those opposed? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So that, did we miss anything else on 7.1 new business for the residential waste audit? Seeing no comments, so I'll move forward to the mayor's award program. And I just want to know if we want to talk about the awards banquet agreement first, because that might be just the easiest thing to get off the plate. Because there's some dollar values, and maybe that needs to get moved to the budget and blah, 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 all that stuff too. So I really, go ahead, Councillor Chappelle.
I'm just looking for some direction as to how it went from $1,500 to $2,827. Like, that's darn near double, and I'm not sure, did he just send an invoice and we paid it, or was there something, like, the agreement's the agreement, how did that happen?
Your Worship, that's exactly how it happened. The chamber sent us invoice for $2,800, and versus causing conflict, I guess, for that amount. Administration paid it. In reviewing the agreement, that was the agreement that was sent out, but never signed or endorsed. So it was kind of open-ended in that way. So we just administratively, we paid the invoice and brought it, or bringing it back to council's attention to see how much council actually wants to contribute to that event.
I have a question. So on that bill, did we donate the hall space for that? Because that would be $1,000 on top, right?
No, Your Worship, we would not have donated that unless there was a council resolution, and I don't believe there was, so they would have been invoiced for the hall.
Okay. I'm just wondering if, to cut that bill down, we could make a council resolution that we will donate the hall space and keep the money at a more reasonable amount. Would that be helpful for administration or?
Your Worship, so for a budget, that would still equal the same dollar value, because we put a value on, even if council donates it, it actually comes out of council grants to cover that cost,
Right, but then it
Yeah.
would be,
internal,
yeah, it would be internal and we don't actually have to write a check for it, right?
yes.
I'm all about if we could save money that way and we don't have to write a check for it. I think that would be, like, because basically we're paying rent to ourselves. $2,800, $1,000 of that is rent to ourselves, right?
Well, plus the rental for the chamber and the county also. Right?
Yeah, Councillor Chappelle.
I would suggest we write the chamber a letter and just say, this is what the agreement was, this is what your bill was, this is something that we need to look at for our budgeting purposes this fall, and see what the response is. Because maybe it was a one-off, just maybe.
Yeah. So, well, with that being said, definitely I want to write them a letter saying that next time we have a budget amount, we have to stay within the budget. But do you feel that it was effective use of like, I wanna talk about that again, because I think it's worth the $2,800 for the event that was there, for our portion. Does that make sense? Like, it was a really, I like that we did it as a three-way partnership, and that's never been done before.
Yeah, I think the discussion isn't about the quality of the night. I think
Okay.
the discussion's about the money that it costs the town for the night.
Okay,
So, and that's taxpayers' money in general, not the people who are there to enjoy the evening.
Counselor Hutchinson?
I had a question about the county's portion, and it's just blanks in there. Again, it's not a signed agreement, so how did that work? I know they said the profit made from event tickets and liquor, and the remaining then is split 3 ways. So did the county pay the 28 something as well? Do you know? They wouldn't? I don't like the agreement at all. I don't like the wording of it is just not the best wording, but, I think we should decide on an amount. I don't know how it works with the chamber, if they have sponsorship for, different awards and stuff. I know other chambers do that, where it's, you know, a $5,000 sponsorship for this. I mean, that's not up to us to decide how they arrange that, but maybe if we stick our heels in and say we're only spending 1,500, that's all it is, then they need to source other revenue for the event.
Counselor Phillips?
Yeah, I agree that a letter should go out saying, you know, we recognize the budget, or the budget amount was 1,500, however, the invoice was for 2,800. Is this a one-off? Is this something that we can expect every year? If it is, then we need to have a further conversation with them to say, you know, this is the budget we're gonna stick to, or we're gonna stick, you know, we're gonna go to the 2,800, or whatever idea we come up with, or solution. We have to make sure that we communicate that very clearly to the chamber, saying this is our budgeted amount. But we also need to make sure that this is budgeted for properly for 2024. So it's a conversation that should happen fairly quickly with the chamber.
Was the $1,500 what they came up with, or what we decided on?
Your worship, I'm not entirely sure where the $1,500 came from. I don't know if this was a proposal from them that,
I'm just wondering if they even knew that $1,500 was our limit. Right?
Yeah, unfortunately, Ms. Breeze isn't here tonight. She's the one who has been communicating with the chamber, so I don't, she probably has more detail than I'm aware of.
So, moving forward, we'll write the letter and make it really clear that, and perhaps improve the wording on the document. Did you have something more, Councillor Hutchinson?
Just that this agreement is to be reviewed again following 2023 Community Business Awards. So if we could clarify to them that in the existing agreement, we're only putting forward $1,500, thank you very much, and we'll review a new agreement for whatever they choose, 3 years, 5 years, or whatever, after the awards as per this agreement.
So, your worship, really what the question of council is, how much do you value this event? Does council want to continue with the partnership with the county and the chamber and us having this one event? And if council does, how much are we willing to budget for it?
So that's what I thought we were
Yeah,
gonna talk
yeah.
about. So, I can answer your question. I think it was worth what they billed us for. I'm not happy that they went over what we promised, but I think it was worth that, and I would like to continue with the partnership of the event. I thought it was really, really beneficial for everybody in the community. Councillor Phillips?
I also agree that it was a very, very good event, and it's nice to see that the chamber, the town, and the county can coordinate and come together in a 1/3 cost sharing for something like this. We just need to figure out what that 1/3 cost sharing is. I think that's what tonight we're talking about, is what dollar amount are we talking about? I think the event itself, yes, great event, we want to see it going on, It's important to recognize our community builders and our community members for sure. Just what dollar amount are we comfortable with?
Okay, so are you happy with what they actually charged us? Because if we were to do an event ourselves and to give out the awards, it would be more than I think that.
And that's where I would like to see the letter go out, and maybe Miss Breeze can also have a conversation and just say, how did the $2,800 come out? Was it a one-off? Was it this year was just higher than normal? Can we expect something different next year? Then we can bring that information back to budget and actually come up with a budgeted amount when we do our budget.
Thank you very much. So, we'll just, go to Councillor Boniface.
I think the $2,800 was reasonable. I realize it's a surprise to us, but we all are quite aware of the rising costs of doing business of any type this year. And I'm sure that meal came out to a lot more money than what was expected, and that was probably where a lot of the cost was, because every time you go to the grocery store, the cost is higher. So I would be in favor of supporting the program, but with a letter saying what has already been said here, and if you're asking for more money, tell us now so that we can budget for it, so it's not a surprise again.
Thank you.
So, Your Worship, what I'm hearing is council wants administration to get a budget number from the chamber for the 2024 event, and then we'll bring it back to council in budget discussions to see
Yeah.
if it's palatable for council.
Yep, and then say that it has to be that amount, because we're putting it in
Yeah,
our budget.
no, I mean, no, agreement needs to be put in place. I mean, looking at what agreement we had on file, it looked like we put our amount in, and it was probably gonna go to the county or the chamber, and somewhere it just got lost in the process, so.
Does that sound fair to everybody? Would you like a motion on that, or yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can make that motion really quickly. I'll make a motion that awards banquet agreement. And recognition rewards program, Councillor Hutchinson.
I think that we definitely have to review what we have in place and the suggestion to put a policy for both the Martha Koscheck Memorial Award, the Mayor's Award, all of them, to have that into a policy and not just a document that we have. There were some other things that I had thought about. Actually, that whole document, I think, to clarify it a little bit more, but also things like business recognition for town businesses, if it's, 10-year, 15-year, 25-year, and that may just be not presented at the Chamber Award, but something separate for the town to recognize, and it may be in the way of a certificate with a council, somebody from council presenting. Maybe the 25-year mark, it becomes a plaque. We could even go farther with that to say, 25-year plaque of business put on the wall or on the outside of the businesses to recognize, you know, what they've done for the community.
I love that idea, because it also reinforces that if they have a business license through the town of Rocky Mountain House, like how long have they had a valid business license? You know, because we want them to have that license, right, and that
Yeah.
promotes that too.
Another one that I found or seen somewhere was nonprofit of the year. So recognizing a nonprofit group. And again, these don't necessarily have to be something that's presented or vote, it wouldn't be voted on like the other ones that are in the policy that's there right now, or our terms of reference, whatever you want to call them, is voted on by a committee of 5 people. These would be a separate, that we would identify, and that brings in that community awareness and community spirit. I also think that, sorry, go ahead.
I misunderstood what you're saying, so, you don't wanna have it, like a policy where we sit down and review it on council, or you do want to do that?
We wouldn't need a review policy because it would just be, okay, Joe Blow's been in business for 10 years. We recognize him. So-and-so is now 15 years. So it's the other, like the citizen,
Sure.
whatever, the other ones that we have are voted, nominated, and then voted on. This would be a separate section in that policy. The other thing was things like 85th birthdays for residents, or whatever, like just to be recognizing people that
Community
are
members.
long-time residents in town. So, like I said, that would be a separate section. And another one, back to the possible position, second position in communications is the awareness, more awareness and more publicly advertised about these awards. Because like you said, there were some that didn't even put in
Yeah,
an
we have-
application.
Up to 10, and I think I gave out 4, is what I
Yeah.
wanna say. Yeah, so I think because that's a good place to start, do you like the categories? Because to me, I look at them and they look like a high school category from 1965, like, there's so much more that's going on in the world today. Like, what about if we looked at, someone who's really done a great job of being environmental? And, I mean, some of it has it in the criteria, but it's not in the definition, like in the title. And I really like the business recognition, and also, community builders. Like, there's a lot of people in this community that donate to things all the time. And I think we should start recognizing those people that are always, supporting our community, because there's lots of businesses that come to town and don't support every football game and every whatever. Yeah, so I love business recognition. And also maybe like longtime family, like you said, in the county, they do the 100-year family. And wouldn't that be cool if we had the 100-year family, and that someone that's lived in Rocky, for a couple generations or something like that? I mean, it's different than a farm, because a farm's really like a business, but great, yeah. Do you like the title categories as they're laid out? Like, we're adding different ones, but just to keep going on your thoughts, right?
Well, I think, again, there has to be a difference between the awards that we're giving out as the mayor's awards, and a separate category for the other ones, and even anniversaries of wedding anniversaries and things like that. So that would be a separate, not a vote taken, and not necessarily recognized at
It's kind of a
these.
policy that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Boniface, and then I'll go to Councillor Phillips.
I agree with everything that's been said. The only thing I would like to see is change our policy, that there's absolutely no more anonymous ones. If you can't sign your name to it, then it's not worth looking at.
No anonymous nominations. Councillor Phillips.
Yes, thank you. My only concern is yes, adding a few more is fine and okay. When you're receiving an award and you're one of 10 receiving it, it's a distinguished thing. When you're receiving and you're one of 30 or 40 or 50, it can kind of get watered down at that point. So just for us to be cognizant of, if we're giving out awards, we want to keep it semi-small and intimate so that it means something.
Special.
Yeah, it's special, exactly.
So like, cause some of them, like, have really good descriptions. So like really like fine arts, you know, we could be more specific than that. Like, international acceptance or recognition of outstanding achievement in one or more of the arts. Like, that doesn't really promote anybody that's in our community really, right? Cause they've already got national recognition. How about, like, maybe these should be more, like, I'm not saying that we make more of them, I'm saying that we fine tune to really support community builders in our community. Right? Yeah, like, Councillor Hutchinson, do you like that, like, is that sort of the direction or not so much?
I kind of think we could almost simplify them and just say, an individual's exceptional art achievement. So that could be in a number of different, you know, you could take, the pool is bigger to find one who is exceptional, and same with the athletic one. Lost my thought, sorry.
Let me just pull up the nomination forms, and that will tell me right away.
And the other thing is that, I thought we could improve is it doesn't have to be the mayor's, like if it's the mayor's special award, then I'd like a little bit more say in the award that I'm giving out. And if we want, we could call it the town's award. You know what I mean? So just so that we really have a little bit of a divided council. I'm the one that has to stand there and do it. So I think I should have agreement on somehow who I'm gonna hand an award to. Somehow, somewhere, just as that. Yes.
Mayor, to answer your question, so the nomination form rather reflects a outstanding citizenship in any area. So you could give out that many, or you could just give out one or two. And then the separate one is the Environmental Stewardship Award.
And it's not on this document at all.
No, it's a second, the background for the Martha Kostick Award is in a separate document, because it's
Well,
separate
so-
from the recognition awards.
So I thought that the Martha Kostick Award was a totally separate thing that
It
we
is.
give out as the Martha Kostick. And
Yes,
so
it
I
is.
had a question about that while I have you on the mic. Is, value sitting in an account somewhere that pays for that, or that's just something that we've, continued doing as a legacy thing?
I do not know. It's part of,
It's a budget amount that we budget for each year. Yeah, and we just carry on the legacy.
Okay, cause lots of times when they do stuff like that at the school, it's because that person has put in a trust. That's the word I was looking for. My mic is not working. They've put in a trust, right? And then that's how the ward gets, subsidized all the time, so. Counselor Hutchinson?
I was just looking on the website, and the briefing on there about the Mayor's Recognition Awards is much more clear than
Our
what's
document?
written in our document.
Our document's really vague. I did read it. It's right here. I have notes on it, but, and so where is that on the website? On the Town of Rocky Mountain House website?
Yeah, it's the Mayor's Recognition Awards, and it's just much more, it's just much clearer. Under citizenship, recognizing an individual whose service or achievement at the local, provincial, national, or international level has been of singular significance. Like, it just describes it a little bit clearer.
And so maybe when we want to set numbers, like final numbers on things, and fine tune the awards a little bit better, then rather than leaving it so vague. Counselor Chappelle.
So reading the document, I think there's a lot of motherhood statements in it, which is what you want. You want it open. And I think we go through them and we can decide if we're giving out 1, 2, or 17, which I don't think we'd give out. I agree with Councillor Phillips. But I got a question about process. So we're having this discussion. Who tweaks this thing? I think it needs some tweaking, but who does that? Do we give that to administration to tweak, or what happens with the process? How do we get this thing to we're having a discussion, how do we get it to the finished product, and who's responsible for that?
So, Mr. Kraus, if we would like administration to tweak it, we have to give direction and framework guidelines for them to tweak it, correct?
Yeah, no, thank you, Your Worship, and there's been a plethora of ideas thrown out here. So I was getting myself to a position where we'll redraft the policy, throw these ideas in and bring it back to council, and council can
Okay.
have something visual to go through and say yes or no to this award or this idea, and then finalize the policy.
Okay, so with that answering your question, okay, so now that we're there, and I will give you a turn, but I haven't heard from Councillor Caprero or Councillor Ald at all, and I would like your input if you have any ideas how to improve this, or what recognition, or if you just really want it however it happens. So Councillor Caprero.
The ideas that have been floating around, I agree with. I don't have anything other than that to say, but I mean, the conversation I think has been good, and I agree with a lot of what's been said.
Councillor Ald, did you have any ideas about?
I've got, my opinion, I think it definitely needs tweaks, and I think it'd be good for administration to bring it back. I would like a little clarification on a comment that you made regarding the Mayor's Special Award, as far as you indicated you wanted to kind of have a final say or a veto type position. Can you clarify that for me?
No, that's exactly what I would like. If I'm giving out a mayor's award as the mayor, and I disagree with some part of the word process, it doesn't take into account my opinion. So we could call it the Town of Rocky Mountain House Award, or we could allow me a little bit more leeway with that. That's really, you got it right there. That's exactly what I wanted.
Okay, well, I would lean more to changing the wording of it than to have the mayor of any council just be able to veto a person because they're not happy with that person.
Yeah, and so, I mean, a lot of communities have a mayor's award that the mayor chooses. And if we don't want to do it that way, then we change the name of the award. I'm totally fine with that.
That's just what I wanted clarification, thanks.
So would you like the mayor's special award removed then?
If Well, yeah, if it means that it's gonna be, not a council decision, then I agree.
Okay. I just think that as the chief elected official, and we're giving a mayor's special award, it should have a little bit more of, you know, my choosing as the chief elected official. I'm not saying that I disregard it, but if you want to change the name, I'm fine with that. But I don't feel comfortable giving out an award as the mayor, that says the mayor, if I disagree with the candidate.
Yeah, and that's what I was, just wanted clarification on.
Yep, no problem. Counselor Hutchinson.
I think if we are adding some categories that are just, you know, like the birthday or anniversary or the businesses and stuff like that, then I think that we could have it called the Town of Rocky Mountain House Award Program, because that's going out there to the entire town. So having said that, I would be prepared to make the motion if,
Can I add to your idea? So I don't know if a awards program is necessary for birthdays or long-standing. What about if we had a little separate policy that if it's your birthday and you're at certain milestones, then we have a card system, like you know how we do at the foundation, the hospital foundation, if you donate anything, everybody on the committee signs a card. What about if you hit a certain milestone and your name is forwarded to administration, then we would just send out a $1 card, like it would cost $2, and it would, you know, show our care for our citizens, and it doesn't have to be an actual award. But we could do stuff like that, like someone has an anniversary or thing, and start sort of like a little small, really cost conscientious rather than the whole thing. Like, I get
and
where you're going.
that's where I was getting at with having it would be a separate section under the policy for things like that. That's not being presented
At an
as
award.
an award, but having something in there that would reflect that, and maybe that's something that admin could look at, other municipalities that may have a policy similar in place.
Does that clarify? Because I just didn't want to be like, oh. Okay, yeah. Counselor Boniface.
I like all the ideas for the mayor's award with the long-term businesses, recognizing those and long-term families in our community. I'm going to say that I would rather we did not do anniversaries and birthdays. I just think it's gonna put another workload on the min to try to keep track of 6,300 people's birthday. And, you know, if we miss somebody and then we're gonna get somebody at the front counter going, you missed my grandma and it was her 97th birthday last week. And it's a lovely idea, it really is. It's very thoughtful, but I think actually doing it might cause a bit of a problem.
I think, I agree with you on some points. So I agree with the idea, but we could put criteria. I mean, not everybody has a 75th birthday. Not everybody has a 100th birthday, right? Like, we could put a few criteria in that's gonna shrink the pool. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think over 50 years of marriage, I mean, the whole world should cheer, because that's amazing, right? So we could, I don't know how you feel, Councillor Hutchinson, but like, we could put more stricter criteria in, and not just like, I had a birthday. Like milestones for
Yeah.
community members. I've lived in Rocky for blah, blah, blah years, and I'm 90, exactly 90. Councillor Hutchinson.
I just had a question for admin. Like, I know the province sends out, when you turn 100, a certificate or whatever. Does the town do that as well at 100th your birthday already?
No, and so basically the way these type of programs work is you actually apply. So if you want to get a letter from the mayor recognizing your 50th anniversary or your parents' 50th anniversary or your birthday, you actually send a request into the municipality to have that, and the municipality does it out and send it out. I mean, that's the way the province does it, or the federal government.
The province does it by your incorporation date, because they go by the date you were incorporated. We wouldn't have
No.
access to that information
No,
as
yeah.
a municipality.
Yeah, I'm talking birthdays and anniversaries.
Right. But business recognition, I got one at our 50th, but it was to our incorporation date
And
in
see,
Alberta.
the town wouldn't have those records either.
That's right.
I mean, we went from paper to computers over the past 30 years.
Yeah.
And our, retention policy, we would only keep those records for 7 years. So it would have to be something that someone could nominate a business or a business could apply for, is how we would put it in there, so.
That sounds great. Does that,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it sounds like admin has enough information from what we've discussed and enough background to know what would work and not work. So having said that, I would make the resolution that council instruct administration to draft, and I'm going to throw the words in there, the Town of Rocky Mountain House Award Program Policy for council consideration. Sorry to interrupt, just to clarify, when does this process of the awards and stuff start?
it's for
Sorry.
March, isn't it?
Generally, the deadline is early March, depending on when the chamber banquet is. But we do accept nominations year-round. However, the push is usually after Christmas.
So we could do it for the new year if you're looking
Yeah,
for
I
a
was
deadline.
gonna say, yeah, to or even the next available committee of the whole date. There wouldn't be a financial impact on this, that it would need to go to service level? Clarification?
Your worship, so not a huge financial, because we budget for the awards already, but that's mostly for the event and not so much for the awards. I think that's something that council should discuss, because right now we just give out a printed certificate. But, for some significant awards, you might want to go, something more.
Do you think for
Some
this,
also.
do you think for this year, we could just do certificates? Because then we don't have to worry about throwing it on the budget, and we could have administration bring it back in the new year, so that, and then we can discuss it again at the next budget, because we don't even know where we're gonna be at with with the chamber thing yet. Do you like that idea? Because she's still got half a motion on the table, but I just wanna get to a date, right? Counselor Shipelt?
Sorry to interrupt your motion, Councillor Hutchinson. Your worship, I agree with Mr. Kraus. I think we need to have something more substantial. If we're looking at 2 or 3 or 4 plaques, it's not gonna be a whole bunch of money, and it just looks more professional.
Better?
And I think we should go that route.
Okay. So, perfect.
So having said that, then, I ended off consideration at service level, review at service level. Right, be it resolved that council instruct administration to draft a Town of Rocky Mountain House Award Program Policy for council's consideration at service level.
So can I ask for clarification? Why don't we just set a budget amount right now? Do you know what we set aside for budgets right now?
It's included with council PR. I could find it fairly quickly.
So do you know that number?
I,
Okay, sorry.
yeah.
Your worship, I don't know we would actually have this policy drafted for service level, to be
Right,
honest.
so can we
with
just
you.
put a budget number on it and then look at it in January?
Printed it today.
So with that information, if we have the draft award policy for council consideration, can I say by the end of the year? Is that too vague?
Why don't we look at it the first committee of whole in January?
Is there usually, there's not that much in January? So for January 2024? But,
Committee of the whole.
yeah, but do we still feel that we should be looking at this at service level if we are going to take the step to implement
This
plaques
isn't
or
a
anything
service
like that?
level, isn't it a budget? Mr. Kraus, is this a service level or a budget number that you need?
Well, more of a budget number,
Okay,
unless council wants to discuss the actual type of award.
okay. Laura, what's our budget right now for this, in this?
Right now, it's $4,000, but that includes the cost share with the chamber for the banquet, the tickets for council guests and the award recipients to attend that banquet, and the certificate or plaque or gift card
Okay,
that
so-
is presented.
So if it's $4,000 and we went over by 28, we went over by $1,300 from last year, cause the chamber banquet was over $1,300 more than that, or we don't know where we at with
Yeah,
that?
Your Worship, I would say we are within budget if you take everything encompassing the tickets and so forth. So
Okay.
we're probably just under the 4,000, I would think.
Okay. And then if we
so-
need to do something, we can look at it a year from now, right?
So if council wants to add awards, I mean, we could just increase that budget number probably by $500, and we'd probably have awards for the major awards.
Okay, so we'll make that in a separate motion then, a money amount. Are you happy with your motion?
I
that-
do you need clarification? We've kind of jumped all over.
Yeah, do you wanna just read it back?
So, I have, be it resolved that council instruct administration to draft the Town of Rocky Mountain House Award Program Policy for council consideration and I have the committee of the whole in January. Was that still what was?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Crows, can I add on there someone who's, cause it never got mentioned, but what about a town councillor or someone who's been on a committee, as one of our possible award recognitions from the town? Just on your list of a million ideas, I'm just adding one more. Previous, like a council member, like a previous council member that did a lot, or a council member that did a lot, you know, cause not everybody runs a second time, but maybe they did a lot of things during their term, or did lots of contributions. Do you want, can we do something like that, or was on a committee, like a,
Yeah, so just for clarification, Mayor, we do have a program where we honor past councillors
oh, okay,
by planting a tree and a plaque.
oh, okay,
So they are recognized,
oh, okay,
so.
okay. And what is that program called?
The exact name is,
The Memorial and Recognition Tree and Bench Program. But they're council, I'll find the exact. Council
So-
Recognition Tree Program.
Could it be combined with this so that we have one document for the programs? Do you think?
we can, your worship, that's
Okay.
up to council of,
Okay.
it's your policy, so we can combine if council wishes.
What do you guys think?
I would like to keep them separate, because this is a Town of Rocky Mountain House
Awards?
awards program, whereas that is a tree and bench memorial program, which
Okay.
I feel is different than this.
Okay,
Council and Member at Large Service Recognition Program.
so then that's not a tree, and that's just for trees and benches?
That's just for trees.
Okay, all right, all right. What are you giving me funny looks for?
Well, I'm just, this is news to me, and I'm wondering if there's a tree out there that has my name on it or not, you know, like, I'm kind of excited about this, and my name could be out there someplace, I'm sorry. Find my tree, yeah.
Yeah, so I still think that next time we talk about it, they should be talked about together, because I didn't even know they existed, right? So, but anyways, moving forward. I make,
I haven't seen your name on any of the plaque, or the trees of the plaques that are planted
Okay.
along River Road, Sorrydale.
You're gonna make me cry.
so we have the motion on the table to bring it back in January, and I'm paraphrasing. Do we need to hear the motion again, or, is there any questions or comments about the motion on the table? I'll call that motion to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And no opposed, that's carried. And so now we need a motion for the money. Counselor Phillips, you
Yes,
seem ready.
I will make a motion that we set the budget amount for the Town of Rocky Mountain House Awards Program to be $4,500 for the 2024 budget.
Thank you very much. And we're putting that to the budget, right?
Yes, so it'd be instructing administration to put that money in the draft budget for council's consideration.
As Mr. Kraus just said.
So I will amend Counselor Phillips' motion to add Mr. Kraus's language. And when you're done, could you read it back to us so we have it properly captured? No, you have as much time as you need, because we're talking while you're typing, so that's gotta be hard.
At this point, I have be it resolved that council instruct administration to change the budget for the awards. Sorry, I may need you back.
Okay, so I can clarify that. So I instruct administration to bring to the 2024 budget a dollar value of $4,500 for the town of Rocky Mountain, no, whatever the thing is called, Laura, what is it called?
The Rocky Mountain House Awards.
Is that what it, is it in the budget? What did you say? That's what's in the budget? 'Cause that's where it's gotta go to. Okay?
Yes.
So everybody's good on that one? I don't have to, she doesn't have to read that back and we've captured it properly? Any discussion on that item? And all in favor of that item? And all opposed, seeing none, that's carried. And I was gonna take a break, but if we are through to the last agenda item, do you wanna take a break or do you wanna just discuss our last thing and then be finished? So the last thing on the agenda today is 7.3, the Committee of the Whole date consideration for November, because we're moving the service level review to accommodate a medical thing. So the service level review will now be on the 12th, 13th, and 14th, which is a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So the Committee of the Whole meeting of November. So the Committee of the Whole meeting that's normally on the 14th, I don't want to do service level all day and then have a Committee of the Whole meeting, so we need to find another place. And my suggestion was two counselors were missing last time, and so I want everyone to check their day timers to see. Now, we need that Committee of the Whole, Mr. Kraus. There's already items listed on that schedule.
So, Your Worship, there's 2 items scheduled for that date right now. One is the ambassador program that Councillor Shippold wanted to talk about, and the other one was us bringing back a report on available industrial lands.
Okay. So,
Can-
Councillor Phillips, go ahead.
Can I make a suggestion of November 28th for the Committee of the Whole meeting?
That works for me.
That's fine with me.
So that's a Tuesday, the last Tuesday of the month of November. And the only week we don't have anything. I hope you didn't have plans.
Well, if there's only 2 items on there, and the item that I brought forward, there's no reason why it could not go to
December.
the December meeting, leaving then the January, like it,
What are the 2 items again?
Councillor Shippold's idea of an ambassador program, which we could add on to service level if so wished by council. And the other one was council asked us to bring back report on available industrial lands for development.
Great.
so could we move the available industrial lands to the council meeting and move the item that I put forward to the service level review and not have that meeting at all?
Could we have it on the 21st? Can we just put those items on a regular council meeting and move the ambassador meeting?
Well, according to Mr. Cuff, you should be discussing these things in a
No, but
committee.
you're just doing a report on industrial land, right? Do you
Well,
think
it's
that's
for
gonna-
council's, yeah, and it's for council's discussion of how you want to pursue development of industrial lands. You know, is it going to be through the private sector? Is it something the municipality is interested in tackling? Or, so it's a pretty broad discussion for council to have.
I think the industrial land conversation is probably something that should be at a committee of the whole meeting because it's going to be I think a rather lengthy one. So I think to add that onto a council meeting probably isn't the wisest idea.
And,
Just my thought, I think we should probably just keep committee of the whole meeting.
but we could have a committee of the whole meeting on the 12th of December if we wanted to, right? I would rather do that. Well, whatever, doesn't matter to me. Counselor Hutchinson.
Could we just, excuse me, look back at the resolution that came out of 6.1? Did we not just put in that resolution that it would come back on November 14th?
No,
We didn't put a date?
we
just
didn't
said
put,
that-
we put the meeting in November, but because we have to move it. Because we can't have a meeting when we're on
That-
service level review. We just
But
put it.
but that's what I'm saying. Would that resolution have to be changed because we're changing the date?
It's a third thing that would be on that committee.
The motion is still accurate, is what she's asking.
The
What was
motion-
the actual wording of the motion that she made? I thought it was to the meeting in November.
No, it does say for the November 14th, committee of the whole.
Okay, but if we've made that motion, and now we make a motion to move that date, that motion will be carried with the date that we're gonna change right now.
I'm just checking on procedure.
Right, Mr. Kraus?
That'll work, your worship.
Okay. So, because that moves to there, and then we move the whole meeting, that will, you know what I mean? So we still are looking for, thanks for the clarification on that. So I'll go to Counselor Shipple and then to Counselor Phillips.
I'm just gonna throw the 16th out there as a possible date, that's a Thursday.
That's fine with me. The 16th of November. I don't mind doing it then. Does anybody have committee meetings on that Thursday?
I do have a committee meeting on that day, yes.
What time is your committee meeting?
It's in Lacombe.
Is it for libraries that meets every,
How about the 15th?
I'm fine with the 15th.
I have a community.
Counselor Caprero, you're,
The 15th wouldn't work for me. I have a family member's birthday that day, so I'd
You have
like to be there in the
appointment?
evening.
yeah.
I have a community futures meeting that day in Red Deer.
Sorry, why can't we do it on the 28th of November?
Because it sounds like Counselor Shipple's already got
Oh,
plans
no,
that day.
I don't. I was just trying to leave the week free just in case. I thought if you want to do something,
Yeah.
we can do it on the 28th.
What about during the day on the 15th or the 16th? What about during the day on the 16th? No, I'm just trying to find a day that works for everybody.
28th?
28th is fine.
Did someone make that motion?
I will make a motion to move our committee of the whole meeting from
Sorry, I
November
just got lost.
14th to November 28th.
Counselor Ald, your light's still on. Did you have a comment or something? Counselor Shipper, your light's still on. Did you have a comment before I call this to vote? Okay, so, no, that's, so there's no further, discussion on the motion to move the thing. I'll call that to a vote. That wasn't very well spoken. I'm calling that to vote. All in favor? And any opposed? And none, and that's carried. So, correspondence for action, I see none. Correspondence for information, I see none. Our action list, Mr. Kraus.
Yeah, so thank you, your worship. So future industrial land, we have now rescheduled to November 28th. So that's, will be slated for there. And then the photo radar discussion, that's on the service level agenda for council to discuss.
I have a question about that. Have they changed the law yet?
No, not that we're aware of. It's still a moratorium until December, but, so we'd get an answer hopefully by then.
Okay. I'm wondering if we even have to have a big talk about it at service level if it's not allowed. just a curious question.
Well, your worship, I think they're eventually gonna reopen it up, so I think council would wanna have that discussion and be prepared for when it does.
Okay,
If council chooses that path.
okay. Thank you. And that's everything. Does anybody, have any questions about the action list? Seeing none, does anybody want to make a motion about the action list? Counselor Phillips?
I will make a motion to accept the action list as presented.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And opposed, and that's carried. Do we have any administrative inquiries tonight? Counselor Chappelle?
Your worship, thank you. Mr. Kraus, at the convention, I had the privilege of listening to Althea from Brownlee LLP discuss council behaviors and conducts. And one comment she made was that all planning and development decisions have to be have to be printed in our local newspaper. She said this is according to the Municipal Government Act, and I'm not sure if we put ours in the Mountaineer or don't put them in the Mountaineer. And she said it's a must. And I'm just wondering if, under the Municipal Government Act, so I'm just looking for clarification on that.
So, your worship, so I think it's a must unless council passes a bylaw for other means of notification, and I'll verify that for you. I would have to look in the MGA. But under our land use bylaw, we post it on our website, and we post it at the front bulletin, and we post development permit approvals right on site. So those are the three that we do. But I'll verify, because I'm sure the MGA stipulates in the local newspaper or as per bylaw passed by council, but I can verify that.
Thank you.
So we don't put it in the paper automatically then, right now? Okay.
No.
Her comment was you have to put it in the paper if you have a local paper, so I'm not sure. We'll find out.
I will verify.
Does anybody else have any administrative inquiries? Are there any notices of motion? There's no closed session today, so seeing we've completed our business, I'm gonna call the meeting adjourned. Meeting adjourned.